Trump's also seizing on a proposal made by one of his 2024 primary opponents, Nikki Haley, seemingly in an effort to one-up her. After Haley called for mandatory mental competency tests for politicians over the age of 75 last week, Trump took things a step further yesterday. On social media, he called for both mental and physical fitness tests for all presidential candidates, writing, quote, "Being an outstanding president requires great mental acuity and physical stamina. If you don't have those qualities or traits, it is likely you won't succeed. It's unclear if Donald Trump has looked in a mirror recently." Meanwhile, Republicans with an eye on 2024 appear to be using different strategies when it comes to dealing with Trump. Here's what Haley said about the former president yesterday compared to what New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, another rumored 2024 candidate, what he had to say.
How do you beat Trump?
You know, I kick forward. I talk about Joe Biden. I'm not worried about Trump. This is about making sure we do something different and leave the status quo behind. We can't keep losing. It is time that Americans know what it's like to win again. We have lost enough. We've talked about past history issues enough. Let's start focusing on getting our country back. Let's get rid of socialism. Let's get rid of this defeatism. And let's show our kids what it means to love their country. A strong America, a proud America. That's what we're going to do.
Look, my message to President Trump is we thank you for your service. Great, but we're moving on. Americans are not in the mode of just settling, right? We're never going to say that the best opportunity for tomorrow's leadership is yesterday's leadership. We want the next generation. We want the next big idea. We want the next piece of technology. And so it is in the American spirit to say we're going after the next thing and the next individual to lead our party and to lead this country. So it could be a variety of individuals. The former president is kind of baked in. Either you're with him or you're not. I don't think anything is going to get his poll numbers up. And as this race actually heats up and people start paying attention, there's just going to be a lot of other options on the table.
Joining us now, national politics reporter for The Hill, Julia Manchester. Julia, good to see you again. Let's talk about those two very different approaches on display there from Haley and Sununu. Republican strategists that you speak to who are expecting other candidates to jump in the race, whether that's DeSantis, Pompeo, Pence, the list goes on and on. How do they think, what do they think will be the most effective way of taking on Donald Trump?
Yeah, it's good to see you again, too, Jonathan. Look, I think going forward, a lot of Republican strategists are saying that they really need to hone in on this line of a new generation. You saw Sununu and you saw Haley mention it there. And a lot of that could be related to age or maybe even a change in policies. However, I think it's mostly age because you hear Republican strategists and operatives saying that, Republican primary voters don't necessarily have a problem with Trump's policies. Trump's policies are very popular with those voters. However, a lot of Republican primary voters, and you see this poll after poll, are really pushing for a new generation, sort of a new, fresher face to lead the party. And I think you are seeing a number of potential 2024 contenders really zero in on that. And it's not just the 2024 contenders, Jonathan, that are talking about this. I thought it was remarkable to hear Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the Arkansas governor, in her State of the Union address. While she praised Trump and her speech was very Trumpian, she talked about the need for new young blood. So I think the status quo, or the modus operandi going forward for these 2024 contenders, according to these operatives, are tout Trump's policies, tout that America First, policy platform, but talk about the need for a new generation, which basically means we like Trump's policies, but Trump himself should take a back seat at this point.
Yeah, we certainly know, though, that Trump has a loyal base of followers who likely aren't going anywhere. But there does seem to be a hunger, at least in parts of the party, for, yes, a new voice. So far, though, you can't beat something with nothing. And the only candidate who's jumped in is Nikki Haley. What's the early sense as to how the party leaders you've spoken to, as to how her rollout has gone?
I've heard really good things about her rollout. And I think, looking at her rollout, it was very well done. And she has obviously an entire news cycle behind her. She's been able to get out in front of the Ron DeSantis's, the Mike Pence's, the Mike Pompeo's, the list goes on, and get that news coverage for herself. Additionally, even though, it was a controversial comment, a certain comment from another anchor on another network about her being past her prime, I don't think that necessarily hurt her, because it's drawing a lot of the attention to her and really drawing attention to the fact that she's the only woman, potentially maybe South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem could jump in, but it's drawing attention to that, and she's able to talk about that, to speak about that. So I think that's good in its own right. And in terms of chatting about what's happening on the ground, she had her rollout in a major early primary state, I should say, of South Carolina, and she's getting out to Iowa and New Hampshire early as an official candidate. That being said, though, I think once the legislative session wraps in Florida, you're going to see Ron DeSantis start to jump in. Tim Scott, another South Carolinian, very much leaning towards this. Other candidates, Mike Pence, or potential candidates making the rounds as well. So it's not going to be the Nikki Haley show for much longer.
Yeah, Haley got attention and fundraised off of that cable news comment. The Hill's Julia Manchester, good work. Thanks for being with us this morning. Still